Erin Perrine joining us from the Trump 2020 campaign. Erin has been watching these hearings this morning. Erin, you're speaking with Evan Donovan, political anchor for Nexstar Media Group. I want to just ask you for your initial reaction so far to what you've seen as we've running up about 3.5 hours of testimony so far this morning in front of the Judiciary Committee.
Well, I think what we've seen at this point in the judiciary hearing is what we expected to see. More of Democrats pandering, not using facts to try and make a case for impeachment, but using pure conjecture and pure partisan politics. Compare that to Professor Turley, the one Republican witness that was allowed to speak, and he said, I don't see the crime here. Bribery, a high crime or misdemeanor. You guys have yet to meet the cause for which you're trying to impeach a duly elected president. When we look at what happened in November 2016, and one of the Democrat witnesses said it themselves, elections have consequences. Absolutely, elections have consequences. President Trump was elected. The consequence for Democrats is that America's on stronger footing and Hillary Clinton didn't win. So instead of trying to actually meet the high crime or misdemeanor for which they should have the crime and then make sure that they can meet that with evidence, Democrats are trying to put this together very quickly and impeach the president. That's not how this country works. And it's great to see Professor Turley have the opportunity to not only correct the record, but use the legal standards of this country to do so.
But what about the other three legal scholars who use the legal standard of the Constitution to refute Turley, saying that, look, high crimes and misdemeanors was discussed in the Constitutional Convention. They added specific terms there. And one of them actually reading from the dictionary, the legal dictionary back then of what bribery was considered to do. I mean, we're looking at two competing views of the same text here.
Well, that's correct, but that's what the Supreme Court, that's what the third branch of our government is set to do. There are plenty of interpretations of the Constitution, originalists, contextualists. People will interpret it in different ways, but the way ultimately the Supreme Court, the high federal courts, interpret these things is the legal standard by which we meet these things. And that's what Professor Turley was discussing today, were the legal interpretations that are currently the legal standing for how these laws are interpreted. And he was saying by those standings, bribery is not met. And in fact, the only obstruction that's being met at this point is by the Democrats, obstructing the ability to hold fair hearings, obstructing the ability to do this in an open and fair process, one that actually meets the calling of impeachment. Impeachment should not be political. This is exactly what our founding fathers were worried about, was a political impeachment. And that's what Democrats are proving today. They don't have the facts to meet the legal standard. And Professor Turley is doing an absolutely exceptional job as a person who himself is not a supporter of the president, but supports the legal standings and the legal findings of this country.
Is he not a supporter of the president? Do we know that?
He has said it multiple times. He didn't vote for the president. He voted for both Clinton and Obama. He said it himself.
Yeah, and I know he said his long friendship with Attorney General Barr, is clearly a scholar, all four of these scholars, I think, who have prided themselves on being objective about this. They obviously just have different interpretations. Professor Gerhardt said during the hearings in the past few hours that impeachable offenses don't have to be criminal offenses. What we're talking about is abuse of power that only the president can commit. Professor Turley then, not responded to, but Professor Turley, in opposition to that, said, look, that is true. They don't have to be crimes, but that in previous impeachments, there have been crimes included with offenses that were not crimes. This would, in fact, be the first time that there was an impeachment brought against the president, if they choose to go that route, in which allegedly, and again, we haven't seen the articles yet, but that there wouldn't be a crime included. I assume that the White House, and I know you don't speak for the White House, but for the Trump campaign, that you would think that would be a good motivator for voters as they come out for 2020.
Listen, every time Democrats take another step in trying to pursue this impeachment hoax, they strengthen the president's standing, not only in this country, amongst the American public in general, but with our base and with our supporters. When Nancy Pelosi started this impeachment by press conference, she brought in $15 million in 3 days to this campaign with 50,000 new donors. That's 50,000 new Americans who came off the sidelines and said, I support President Trump, and here's part of my hard-earned paycheck to make sure that he can win again. That's what we see every time that Democrats do this. And so for us on the campaign, we're going to continue to fight back, and we're going to continue to push the facts out there. And let's talk about Gerhardt real quick. He worked for Feinstein to go and try to discredit Kavanaugh as part of that confirmation hearing. So those three liberal professors not only are known liberals, but donors to Democrats. When you compare that with the strong standing of Turley, who himself has admitted that he votes as has voted for Democrat candidates, I think that not only are we strengthening the campaign, but we're strengthening the case against impeachment today.
Erin Perrine, Trump 2020 campaign spokesperson, joining us now live on Nexstar's continuing coverage of the impeachment hearings of President Donald Trump. Erin, I just want to challenge you on some of the language used here. Obviously, we have different interpretations of the law and of the Constitution by these legal scholars here. But there are many people on both sides of the aisle who have said that this conduct was impeachable. There are many others that say that it's not. But is that not just a difference of opinion about this? The White House and the Trump 2020 campaign continue to use language like an impeachment hoax or an impeachment scam. It's certainly not a hoax or a scam if it's possible that the president committed conduct that is impeachable. Is it not just a difference of opinion here? And isn't my point being that the language here matters, that we're sort of fomenting division by calling it a hoax or a scam, when in fact it may be that the president did commit impeachable offenses?
Well, for starters, when this came to a vote, there is bipartisan opposition to this impeachment in the House of Representatives, not in support of. And it is a hoax. This is fake. This is made up. You just watched the same 3.5 hours plus testimony I did. Turley has said, and with the legal backing and the case law, to show time and again where the standards are not met. He sat back in his chair and scoffed at the idea of bribery because that legal standard is not met. This is a hoax. This is a witch hunt. Before President Trump was even inaugurated, there were articles written about how impeachment has already started. There were never grounds. There were never facts. This is all supposed to be based on, let's remember where this started, the call with Ukraine. Turley said it himself that AG Barr and this president have taken extraordinary transparency measures to not only release transcripts of calls, but to release other materials, fact to this, that are actual facts of what has happened as compared to conjecture and opinion. In the court of law, you are innocent until proven guilty. In this country, facts matter. Democrats do not have the facts on their side for impeachment. It is a hoax. It is a witch hunt. And it is them trying to take down a duly elected president without the legal standing to do so.
I would point out that the other three legal scholars both gave their legal standing and quoted case law as well as from the Constitution. So that's not entirely accurate.
So did
Erin.
Turley.
They all did.
No, I didn't
all
say
four
that.
Of them
no,
did.
but I didn't say that they didn't.
Okay.
And I certainly didn't say that, and Mr. Turley also quoted the Constitution, so I think that was a little bit of an unfair assessment there.
No. I was clarifying what you said, that all four of them had used legal backing and legal standing. I believe that you did say that he did and they
kept
didn't.
using examples. I did not. No.
My apologies if I misunderstood you there, Erin. Let's switch our focus to the 2020 campaign. President Trump obviously been out on the campaign trail, continuing to hold these rallies that have been so popular among his base. We've seen not much of a change here in terms of what Americans think about these impeachment hearings. It seems like everyone is kind of stuck in their view. Given that the president is got a very, very strong base of support, but also has a strong opposition, where do you see the line being in how he wins some of those people in the middle?
Well, I think that I know for a fact at every rally we go to, we glean thousands of information points about everybody who signs up and registers to attend one of our rallies. Generally speaking, our internal data is showing that about 25% of the people that come to our rallies are registered Democrats, are folks that are of the Democrat persuasion. And so that is showing that we have more and more people coming to join our campaign, to join our cause. You are seeing historically high numbers of support for President Trump among Black Americans because of his record of success. When we talk about the strong economic standing of this country, you look at states that he won that previous Republicans did not. Michigan, over 111,000 new jobs, 17,000 of those being manufacturing jobs. Vice President Pence is there today to have a Keep America Great event with former White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. That gives us more information, more data, so we can contact these voters. We can knock on their doors. We can have them come and become volunteers. We're seeing that, yes, this country, there are strong bases on both sides, but we are seeing with the data, with the points, with the people who come to our rallies. Those are people who will wait in line for days and wait in line even for just hours to come and see their president in person, that we are seeing that about a quarter of them are Democrats. And that is showing internally that we have people we can move, not only to protect our 16 map, but expand upon it.
Erin Perrine, Trump 2020 campaign spokesperson, joining us here on Next Stars Live, continuing coverage of the impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. Erin, thank you so much for joining us here. We appreciate you taking the time. Absolutely.